we were very much interested in the city of Tokyo, this hybridity of Tokyo. And because I studied in Paris and came back to Tokyo and then realized that it's so strange and interesting. So I tried to keep my eyes, which is a little bit contaminated by French way of looking the city. And then I try to keep it as important framework to watch Tokyo, because it gives us to rediscover the daily things in a quite extraordinary way. And so I thought it's possible to establish a new architecture urban theory from Tokyo, because Tokyo could be interesting case study to start talking about city and architecture differently from previous generations. But at the same time, we are very much interested in vernacular architecture, because pet architecture made in Tokyo is a kind of a new vernacular in urban environment. So I always try to incorporate this wisdom of the vernacular architecture into our design practice. And then we had a chance to design several weekend houses in the countryside or in the mountains, and it's much easier to focus on those vernacular things. Each actor which embed certain principle of behavior, they behave based on their nature, and then we just follow them, and then sometimes guide them to perform well, or we sometimes to define the capacity of the behavior. We give certain limit to control the behavior of things. I think it's a way to see the agent which defines things behind the object. This is a main idea of behaviorology. But most of the case, architects are absent in construction site. So drawing is the only means to communicate with people who are on site. And also it is the only means of communication between objects and people, and all these different actors together in one place. It's almost a miracle because so many things this grass have never imagined that they encounter with this wood, for example, and then facing to this farm, for example. This is a kind of miracle encounter between objects, and then we also participate into it. So this kind of the connection between many different things in one place and one object. This is power of architecture, and then drawing is a kind of map to make it happen. So if we apply the idea of drawing into actor network theory, we can produce a very different type of drawing, and it's quite difficult to show the best answer how to draw it. But I continue to study on it together with my students. Is more about criticism on industrial society network, and which we are totally contaminated. our livelihood is totally governed and defined by industrial society network, and we can't really escape from this network. But it's quite interesting to imagine something beyond that, or something outside of this network. This idea of architectural ethnography discovered through the experience of relief for devastated area by earthquake in 2011. We went to the Tohoku area and then helped fishermen to think about their future and how to recover their villages. And then since they lost everything, we don't see any buildings in the place. And it's just nature, which is quite beautiful nature. But all the houses were gone, swallowed by tsunami. And then ports are destroyed. And it's quite difficult for us to imagine where people live, how people live in this place. So we started to ask many questions about their life, about their work, about their customs, about their festivals, about their ancestors. And then realize that, what we are doing is ethnography. It's not architectural planning, urban planning. We are just asking people to know who are they. We can question every time, every day, and about the premise or assumption of the people about their living, but we don't do that in the city because we believe that we all know those, we share all those assumptions. But when I went to fishermen's villages, we can't really understand what was their assumptions about living, and then it's really make me recognize that we are now encountering totally different type of livelihood, different type of ecology of livelihood, totally different ecology of livelihood, and then from that I start to watch my life in the city. With ethnographical point of view. So we were almost obliged to work with the fishermen as an ethnographer, but this experience let me think about our livelihood through ethnographical eye. So we can do today's ethnography in the city. Urban ethnography is possible. And then architecture is a very important means to construct this livelihood. So if you want to discuss urban ethnography today, you should focus on architecture. And then architectural ethnography came up through this experience. I'm a big fan of architecture, architectural design, but at the same time, through this experience, many different diversity of design can be seen just as one single lines of architecture. It's from this side, it's so diverse, but from this angle, it's just one single thing. There are not so many options. From here, you see so many options as kind of a design in a visual sense and experiential sense. But from livelihoods aspect, they are all same. They just reproduce same ecology of livelihood.